I don't care how much you love fish tanks, you still hate water changes. Well, I guess that wasn't too bad. So let's give you guys an update on the Fluval EVO. So it's actually been 2 months, about 2.5 months since I've given you guys an update on the Fluval EVO here. Now, if you last remember, when I gave you an update, I talked a lot about how this tank pretty much crashed, how I had palytoxins unleashed in the tank. A lot of my corals were looking bad. They were looking on the brink of never coming back. But I'm proud to announce that the tank is kind of back to where it used to be. I do have a few small remnants of strange happenings in the tank. I will say that I went for a little longer than I'd like between water changes a couple months ago. It was about 6 weeks in between water changes, and with a tank this size, I like to keep that in between 2 to 4 weeks. I usually like to do a water change every other week, but if I kind of get busy and wrapped up with things at home, then I just don't have the opportunity to do so. But similar to the other EVO update videos, I'm going to take you guys through the tank, show you how the corals are doing. I'm going to kind of keep it a little more brief this time. But I will say that you'll notice that my Monty, which is a really awesome light pink, orangish color, is kind of dying. It doesn't look great. Now, I think this could have something to do with that 6-week period of time when I went without water changes, but other than that coral, all the other corals in the tank are looking really good, and nothing else has changed. The salinity is consistent. The temperature is pretty consistent. The lighting has not changed. So if you guys have had an issue with a Monty like that before, what did you do? Did it come back? Is there anything you'd recommend that I should do to encourage it to come back? Will it come back? I don't know. Other than that, you'll notice there are a few coral in here that I will tell you as I go around are not going to stay in this tank. They're going to be moved into another tank very, very soon. And honestly, the 2 fish are doing really good. And my little I don't know if it's a sand conch or a tiger conch, but this thing is the bomb. I'm going to do a video on it separately because I think everyone should have one of these in their tank. I mean, if you have a 5-gallon tank, no, but right around 10 to 15 gallons and up, everybody should have one. I've had him for a long time. He does an awesome job. He or she does an awesome job, and they live a long time. So a lot of times snails and crabs, you'll see turnover with those animals. And this little guy, he's been chugging along for quite some time now. So, all right, I'm going to grab the camera, take you guys around the tank, show you everything that's going on, and then we'll do a little wrap up at the end. Okay, so starting at the back of the tank, the torch coral is my favorite coral in this tank. It's looking good. The lights have not been on super long, so it's not quite fully open and puffy, but it's doing really well. There are multiple heads on this torch now. I'm not entirely sure how to split it because it looks like the flesh is shared between each of those heads, so there's not really a good space to frag or cut off one of the branches. But for now, I'm happy with it being, just a large piece in this tank. Okay, so now you'll see there are actually 3, 4, 5 corals in this frame. Now the Monty is the one that is discolored. It has a lot of brown and green on it. That used to be solid pink, solid orange. Now, if you guys have had experience with a Monty doing this, I was, hoping that somebody would have some advice to bring it back. I don't know if there's really anything I can do other than to keep the tank clean and try to maintain consistency, but I'm thinking that it's kind of discolored and bleached a little because I didn't do a water change for 6 weeks, and there might not have been enough calcium in the water to sustain growth with that Monty. You'll see the candy cane corals above that looking good. Down below, kind of in the bottom to the left of the center of the frame, is a small zoophrag that was actually fallen off into the sand, so that's why those are closed up right now. I just put that there. And then on the right side, you'll see a small zoa colony with some bubble algae that I really need to clean off. I haven't done that in quite some time. And then on the bottom right of the screen, you'll see another zoa colony that's actually doing pretty well there. So down below on the sand, this is one of the temporary inhabitants of this tank. It's hard to tell because, again, during the water change, this Duncan coral had kind of flipped onto its side and was in the sand, so I just uprighted it. But I swear the Duncan corals are the fastest growing coral. I haven't seen GSP and Xenia and stuff grow really quickly, but in terms of a coral with larger heads like the Duncan coral, I've never seen a coral grow faster. I've been feeding this Duncan coral mysis shrimp when I feed the fish in the tank. It started off with 2 heads, and I think it has 6 or 7 now, and it hasn't even been in the tank very long. So the Duncan coral is a really awesome coral. It grows quickly, it looks nice, and it's easy to take care of. So in an effort to keep this a briefer update, I actually have 4 corals in this shot. On the left side, there is a micro hammer coral that I actually purchased from someone locally, kind of not a fish store, but just a fish tank hobbyist. That's doing really well. That is also a temporary coral in this tank. It's going to be moved. In the middle on the top, you'll see the fathead dendro. Now, I kind of assumed this thing was completely dead after my tank crash with the palytoxins, but what was once 1 head has now split into 2. Right now it is closed. It typically opens a little later in the day because that's typically when I feed the tank, so it's sort of on a rhythm. So even though it looks closed up right now, that tank is doing really well. I'm really happy that it came back. I was really bummed at the thought of potentially losing it. Now below that, you'll see an acan colony also doing well. And then to the right, you'll see another acan colony that has a lot of pink and orange coloration. This thing was close to dead when I put it in the tank, and it's now coming back with a vengeance, even after the palytoxin scare. So I'm really happy to see that acan coral doing well. Okay, so I'm doing a little freehand here, so if the camera's a little bit shaky, that is why. You'll see my pajama cardinal in the back there doing well, and this is a Galaxia coral. It's doing just fine. It hasn't grown a whole lot, but it seems to be pretty happy in the tank. Up next is another one of my favorite coral in the tank. This is a Lobophilia, I believe it's called. I just call it a Lobo. This thing was destroyed by the palytoxins. You guys probably saw the picture in the previous Evo thumbnail. Yeah, this thing was basically dead, and it has come back with a vengeance. It looks great. It's puffy. It often has its feeder tentacles out, and I'm really happy with its progress. And last but certainly not least is the frog spawn coral that I put in this tank when I first started it. I believe it had 2 small heads to start, maybe 3, and now it has 6 or 7. So it is doing really well in this tank also. So that's all for the update on the Fluval EVO aquarium today. Hope you guys enjoyed a little insight into what performing a water change on this tank looks like. I tried to keep it moving so it wouldn't drag on too long. It doesn't take too long to do a water change. It's not too painful, but I still, just don't really like doing it. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for checking it out. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't yet done so, and check out some other videos on my channel. I have a really awesome video about this tank being the best saltwater tank for beginners. I still firmly believe that, even after having the tank for 2 years now, a little over 2 years. Love this tank. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, that's all I've got for now. So until a future fish tank guy video, I will see you guys soon.